Ambassador Chen Wei stood before the massive doors and tried not to show her fear. The entrance to the council chamber stretched 50 meters high, carved from something that looked like blue crystal but hummed with energy. Strange symbols glowed along its surface, probably writing in languages humanity had never seen before. Behind her, the other members of Earth's delegation waited in silence. They all wore their best uniforms, but Chen knew they looked primitive compared to the beings they were about to meet. The doors opened without sound. The chamber beyond took Chen's breath away. It was enormous, bigger than any stadium on Earth. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above, and floating platforms filled the space at different heights. Each platform held representatives from different alien species. Chen counted at least 200 platforms, maybe more. Some of the aliens were humanoid. Others looked like nothing she could describe. One species appeared to be made of living light. Another looked like a cluster of floating geometric shapes. A voice filled the chamber, speaking in perfect English through the translation device they had been given. The Galactic Council recognizes the delegation from Earth. Approach the speaking platform. Chen walked forward, her team following behind. The floor beneath their feet was transparent, showing stars and nebulae far below. It felt like walking on nothing. They reached a circular platform that rose slowly, lifting them toward the center of the chamber. As they ascended, Chen saw the aliens watching them. Some leaned forward with interest. Others seemed barely awake. A few were clearly talking among themselves, ignoring the humans completely. The platform stopped. Chen found herself facing a semicircle of 7 enormous seats. These held the council's senior members, the species that held the most power. In the center sat a being that looked like a mantis crossed with a spider, easily 4 meters tall. Its multiple eyes focused on Chen with unnerving intensity. This was Chancellor Zixthera of the Zor Mathi, the species that had led the council for 3,000 years. "Speak your petition, human," the Chancellor said. Its voice clicked and buzzed even through the translator. Chen took a deep breath. "Honorable council members, Earth comes before you seeking membership in this great assembly. We know we are new to faster-than-light travel. We know our technology is simple compared to yours. But we are a determined species eager to learn and contribute to galactic civilization." She paused, then continued. "We also come seeking protection. The Krevthan have established military outposts in the outer regions of our solar system. They have attacked our colony on Europa and destroyed a research station near Jupiter. We have tried diplomatic contact, but they refuse to speak with us. We need the Council's help to resolve this conflict peacefully." For a moment, the chamber was silent. Then something happened that Chen had not expected. Laughter. It started from one of the platforms to her left, a species that looked like upright lizards covered in bright feathers. The laughter spread. More aliens joined in, their sounds mixing into a cacophony of chirps, hums, and musical notes that the translator couldn't fully convert. Chancellor Zixthara raised one of its blade-like limbs, and the laughter stopped. "The human speaks of the Krevthan as if they are a threat. Tell me, Ambassador Chen, how many ships does your species possess?" "We have 43 military vessels, Chancellor. We also have approximately 200 civilian ships that could be converted for defense if needed." More laughter. A voice called out from one of the platforms. 200 ships. The Krevthan have 10,000 vessels in their home fleet alone." Another voice joined in. "Did she say 43 military ships?" "I have seen trader guilds with better fleets." Chancellor Zixthara allowed the mockery to continue for several seconds before calling for silence again. "Ambassador Chen, Earth has been traveling between stars for less than one standard galactic year. You have barely explored your own solar system. Your weapons are chemical rockets and crude lasers. Your fastest ships take weeks to cross distances that our vessels cover in hours. Why should the Council waste its time with a species so far beneath the standard required for membership?" Chen felt heat rising in her face, but she kept her voice steady. "Because every species in this chamber started somewhere, Chancellor. You were all young once. The Council's charter speaks of supporting developing civilizations and maintaining peace. We are asking for nothing more than what the charter promises." A new voice spoke, this one deep and resonant. Chen looked toward one of the largest platforms where a being sat that looked vaguely reptilian, but covered in armor-like scales that seemed to shift colors. "The human speaks boldly for one whose species cannot defend even a single moon." This was Commander Thexlar of the Drathnel, the Council's military enforcers. "Your people are children playing with fire. The Krevthan will crush you. and there is nothing we can do about it even if we wish to help. From another platform, a voice like crystal chimes spoke. Chen saw a being that appeared to be made of living gemstones. The Velkari have analyzed Earth's military capacity. Your species would lose any conflict with the Krevthan within 7 standard cycles, probably fewer. You lack orbital defense platforms, your ships have no energy shields, and your weapons cannot penetrate modern armor. Frankly, Ambassador, you should be grateful the Krevthan are only occupying your outer colonies. They could take your homeworld within days if they chose to. Chen felt the other human delegates shifting nervously behind her. She knew everything the aliens said was true. Earth's military was designed for fighting other humans, not species that had been traveling between stars for millennia. But she had not come here to give up. Then help us, she said firmly. Give us time to develop. Station a council peacekeeping force in our system until we can defend ourselves. The charter allows for this. We are not asking for charity, only for the protection that every council member receives. Chancellor Zixathara's mandibles clicked together in what might have been amusement. A peacekeeping force requires resources, Ambassador. Ships, personnel, supplies. Why should the council spend such resources on a species that offers nothing in return? You have no trade goods we need. Your technology is irrelevant. Your system has no strategic value. What do you bring to this assembly besides requests for help? Chen opened her mouth to respond, but another voice interrupted. It came from a platform she had barely noticed, one that sat in shadows at the edge of the chamber. The being that spoke looked humanoid but thin, almost skeletal, with skin like aged paper. These were the archivists, the species that recorded everything but rarely participated in debates. The humans have an interesting history, the archivist said quietly. We have been observing their world for several cycles. They are a remarkably violent species, constantly fighting among themselves. Yet they are also remarkably persistent. They survive conditions that would destroy most civilizations. Chancellor Zixathara waved a dismissive limb. Primitive warfare and survival instinct are not qualifications for council membership. Many species fight among themselves before reaching the stars. Most do not make it this far. Those that do learn to leave their violent past behind. The archivist said nothing more, retreating back into shadow. Chancellor Zixathara turned its attention back to Chen. The council will vote on Earth's petition. All in favor of granting membership and providing protection? Chen watched the chamber. Not a single platform lit up with an affirmative vote. The silence was absolute. All opposed? Every platform glowed. 200 species voting as one. Rejected. The petition is denied, Chancellor Zixathara announced. Earth is advised to continue developing its capabilities before requesting council membership again. As for the Krevthan situation, this is considered a minor territorial dispute and outside council jurisdiction. You may leave. Chen stood frozen for a moment. She had known rejection was possible, but seeing it happen so completely, so unanimously, hit harder than she expected. Behind her, she heard one of her team members breathing heavily, fighting back emotion. Thank you for your time, Chancellor, Chen said, keeping her voice level. She turned and led her delegation back across the transparent floor. As they walked, she heard the aliens already moving on to other business, discussing trade agreements and border disputes between species humanity had never heard of. The doors closed behind them with a soft hiss. In the chamber, only the archivists continued watching the space where the humans had stood, their ancient eyes thoughtful and knowing. The Krevthan war fleet arrived at Titan Station 3 weeks after the Council rejected Earth's petition. Admiral Sarah Okonkwo watched them approach on her tactical display and felt her stomach tighten. 150 vessels, each one larger and more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. Their shields glowed like soap bubbles around their hulls, and their weapons ports were already opening. All ships, this is Admiral Okonkwo, she said into the fleet-wide channel. Remember your training. Remember what we are fighting for. Our families, our world, our future. The Krevthan think we will roll over and surrender. They think we are too primitive to fight. Let's show them what humans are made of. The response came back as 37 voices, captains of every ship Earth could spare. Understood, Admiral. We stand ready. 37 ships against 150. Sarah knew the mathematics were brutal, but mathematics had never stopped humans before. The Krevthan hailed them. The face that appeared on her screen was reptilian, with golden eyes and scales that shimmered with metallic colors. Human vessels, this is Fleet Commander Caxthor. You are occupying space claimed by the Krevthan Dominion. Surrender your station and withdraw all personnel from Saturn's moons. You have 1 standard hour to comply. Failure to surrender will result in the destruction of your fleet and the seizure of your assets. Sarah looked at the alien's confident face and felt anger burning in her chest. Fleet Commander, this system belongs to humanity. We will not surrender what is ours. If you want Titan Station, you will have to take it from us. Caxthor's eyes widened slightly, showing surprise. You cannot be serious. Your primitive vessels are no match for our fleet. We are offering you the chance to preserve your lives. Do not throw them away for foolish pride. 1 hour, you said. Sarah smiled without humor. You can have our answer now. The answer is no. If you want to fight, come and get it. She cut the transmission before Caxthor could respond. All ships, battle formation Delta. Point defense systems active. Let them come to us. The Krevthan fleet advanced confidently. Sarah watched their formation and saw exactly what she expected. Textbook military doctrine. Vessels moving in coordinated groups with overlapping shield coverage. They had probably fought a dozen wars using the same tactics. Why change what worked? Because humans did not fight by the textbook. Wait for it, Sarah murmured, watching the distance close. Wait. The Krevthan opened fire at maximum range, their particle beams lancing through space. The human ships scattered like startled fish, each captain making their own decisions about how to evade. There was no coordinated pattern, no predictable formation. To the Krevthan, it must have looked like chaos. 3 human ships took hits anyway, their inferior armor burning under the alien weapons. One ship, the destroyer Valiant, lost its entire port side. Atmosphere vented into space along with 20 crew members, but Valiant did not retreat. Its captain, a woman named Rodriguez, did something the Krevthan did not expect. She aimed her dying ship directly at the nearest enemy cruiser and activated full thrust. The destroyer accelerated, trailing debris and bodies straight toward the Krevthan vessel. What is she doing? Caxthor's voice crackled over the channel, confused. She is ramming us? With a damaged ship? The Krevthan cruiser tried to evade, but Rodriguez had anticipated the maneuver. Valiant slammed into the alien ship's shields at full velocity. The shields held for almost 2 seconds, then collapsed under the kinetic impact. The destroyer's nose punched through the cruiser's hull like a knife through paper. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire and debris. Sarah felt grief for Rodriguez and her crew, but she did not have time to mourn. All ships pattern Alpha Strike. Target their command vessels. Make every shot count. The human fleet stopped running and turned to fight. They did not try to match the Krevthan formation. Instead, each ship operated independently, using tactics that seemed suicidal but were carefully calculated. Frigates used asteroid fields for cover, popping out to take shots before ducking back. Patrol boats loaded with mining explosives flew straight at enemy ships, forcing them to waste ammunition on small targets. One destroyer captain, Commander Liu, jettisoned his ship's entire cargo of refined uranium and then detonated it with a missile, creating a radioactive cloud that contaminated 3 Krevthan vessels. The Krevthan fleet started taking casualties. Not many at first, but steady losses that added up. A destroyer here, a frigate there. Their shields protected them from most human weapons, but when a ship got close enough to ram or detonate itself, shields meant nothing. They are insane, Caxthor's voice shouted over the captured communications. They are destroying their own ships. What kind of species fights like this? Sarah listened to the Krevthan commander's confusion and allowed herself a grim smile. The aliens did not understand. In galactic warfare, ships were valuable assets to be preserved. Crews were trained specialists who took years to replace. No rational species threw away resources like humans were doing, but humans had spent thousands of years learning a different kind of warfare. They knew that sometimes survival meant accepting losses that seemed unacceptable. They knew that the enemy's confusion was a weapon itself, and they knew that being willing to die made you far more dangerous than being afraid of death. The battle raged for 6 hours. Titan Station's defense platforms added their fire to the fight. Ancient railguns that could not penetrate shields but could distract and harass. Human ships that ran out of ammunition improvised. One captain, Martinez, overloaded his fusion reactor and flew his ship into a cluster of enemy vessels. The explosion took out 5 Krevthan ships and damaged 4 more, but the humans were dying too. Ship after ship fell silent, their crews lost to the void. Sarah watched her fleet shrink from 37 vessels to 22, then to 15, then to 9. Each loss was a knife in her heart, but she could not stop. If they broke now, if they ran, Earth itself would be next. The turning point came when the Krevthan made a mistake. They had been fighting defensively, trying to minimize their losses while wearing down the human fleet. But Caxthor grew impatient. He ordered his heavy cruisers to push forward aggressively, breaking their defensive formation to crush the remaining human ships quickly. Sarah saw the opportunity immediately. All remaining vessels converge on grid 779. Everything we have left, throw it at them now. The 9 surviving human ships dove toward the advancing Krevthan cruisers. They were battered, leaking atmosphere, running on emergency power. But they still had weapons, and they still had human crews who refused to quit. The frigate Moscow, down to 10% power, flew straight into the face of a Krevthan battlecruiser and fired every missile it had left at point-blank range. The shields held, but the battlecruiser was forced to stop and redirect power to defense. That gave the destroyer Wellington time to target the battlecruiser's engines with its last functioning railgun. The shots punched through the shield's weak point and crippled the massive ship. Sarah's own vessel, the carrier Armstrong, was too damaged to move. But its flight deck still worked. She launched every remaining fighter and bomber, 20 small craft piloted by men and women who knew they probably would not come back. They swarmed the Krevthan heavy cruisers like angry insects, too small and too many for the aliens to target effectively. Suicide runs, kamikaze attacks, tactics that had not been used in human warfare for centuries because they were considered barbaric. But this was not a war between humans. This was survival. When the smoke cleared, 18 Krevthan ships were destroyed or crippled. Another 35 were damaged enough to withdraw. The rest of their fleet pulled back, reorganizing at a safe distance. Sarah looked at her tactical display and felt exhaustion wash over her. 6 human ships remained functional. 6 out of 37. Nearly 800 crew members were dead or missing. Titan Station had taken heavy damage and was venting atmosphere from multiple breaches, but the Krevthan had retreated. Impossibly against all odds, the humans had held. Fleet Commander Caxthor is hailing us, Admiral, her communications officer reported. Sarah activated the channel. Caxthor's face appeared, but the confidence was gone. The alien looked shaken, his eyes wide with something that might have been fear. "What are you?" Caxthor asked quietly. "We destroyed most of your fleet. We killed hundreds of your people. But you did not break. You did not run. You fought like you wanted to die. What kind of species are you?" Sarah looked at the alien commander and felt no satisfaction in their victory. Only grief for the dead and determination to protect what remained. "We are humans, Fleet Commander, and we do not give up, not ever. Tell your superiors that if they come back, we will kill more of you. We will keep killing you until you leave or until we are all dead. Your choice." She cut the transmission and turned to her remaining crew. "Get rescue teams to the damaged ships, save everyone we can, and send a message to Earth. Tell them we held. Tell them we need reinforcements, and tell them the Krevthan will be back." In the darkness of space, the wreckage of 2 fleets drifted among Saturn's rings, a graveyard of ships and dreams. But humanity still held Titan Station. News of the Battle of Titan spread through the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Trading ships carried the story from system to system. Communications networks buzzed with reports that seemed impossible. The humans, the primitive species that the Council had rejected just weeks ago, had fought the Krevthan to a standstill. In the Council chamber, Chancellor Zixthera reviewed the battle recordings with growing disbelief. The Zormathi had existed for 12,000 years and had witnessed countless wars. They understood military strategy, logistics, and the mathematics of combat. But what the humans had done made no sense according to any rational military doctrine. "Play the recording again," Zixthera ordered. "The part where the human destroyer rams the Krevthan cruiser." The holographic display showed the damaged human ship accelerating toward the alien vessel. The Krevthan tried to evade, but the human captain anticipated every move. The collision was spectacular and fatal for both ships. "Why?" Zixthera asked aloud. "The destroyer was damaged but still functional. The crew could have retreated to fight another day. Why throw away the ship and all those lives for one enemy vessel?" Commander Thexlar of the Drathnel stood nearby, his massive form shifting uneasily. The Drathnel were warriors proud of their military traditions. They had fought in more wars than any other Council species. But even Thexlar seemed disturbed by what he was watching. "They are not fighting to win," Thexlar said slowly. "They are fighting to hurt the enemy as much as possible before they die. It is less like warfare and more like revenge. Our suicide. But they did not all die. A crystalline voice chimed in. The Velkari representative, Shendra, floated closer to examine the data. The Velkari were master strategists, using complex mathematics to predict battle outcomes. Our calculations said the human fleet should have been destroyed within 2 hours. Instead, they lasted 6 hours and inflicted casualties of nearly 40% on the Krevthan fleet. The numbers do not match any known combat model. Zixthera's mandibles clicked together in thought. The humans lost 79% of their fleet. By any standard definition, they lost the battle. Yet the Krevthan retreated. How is that possible? Because the Krevthan commander realized something, Shendra said, data streams flowing through her crystalline body. If he pressed the attack, he would win, but victory would cost him the rest of his fleet. The humans were not going to surrender. They were going to keep fighting until every ship was destroyed, taking as many Krevthan vessels with them as possible. Fleet Commander Caxthor chose preservation over victory. Then the Krevthan commander is a coward, Thexelar growled. No, Shenadra replied. He is rational. What the humans did was irrational. They valued hurting the enemy more than they valued their own survival. That breaks the fundamental assumption underlying all galactic warfare, that combatants prefer to live. When an opponent does not care about dying, all traditional strategy becomes worthless. A betting pool had started among the younger species in the council. Most wagered that humanity would last 2 more standard cycles before the Krevthan returned with overwhelming force. A few optimistic gamblers gave Earth 4 cycles. Nobody bet on human survival beyond that, but some species were watching Earth with more than casual interest. In the shadowed platform where the archivists sat, ancient eyes studied the recordings with deep focus. The archivist had observed 10,000 civilizations rise and fall. They cataloged everything, forgot nothing, and rarely shared their conclusions. But now they were sharing, sending data files to council members who had the wisdom to pay attention. One file showed human history over the past 5,000 years. Wars without end, fought with increasing sophistication and brutality. Humans had developed weapons capable of destroying their entire world, had come close to using them, and had somehow stepped back from annihilation. They had faced plagues that killed half their population and rebuilt. They had endured ice ages, asteroid impacts, and global disasters that would have ended most species. Another file showed human cultural records, stories, myths and histories that revealed how humans thought. They had legends of warriors who fought impossible odds and sometimes won. They told stories of last stands where a few held against many. They celebrated people who sacrificed themselves for others. The concept of dying for a cause was woven into human culture at every level. This is what we tried to tell the council before. The archivist named Keeper Vinshal said to his colleagues. Humans are not like other species. Most civilizations that reach the stars have evolved past their violent phase. They have learned cooperation, restraint, and rational decision-making. Humans have learned all those things, but they have not forgotten the old ways. They remember how to be violent. Worse, they are good at it. The younger species in the council were starting to watch Earth broadcasts more carefully now. Human news networks showed the aftermath of the battle. Funerals for the fallen were broadcast worldwide. Leaders gave speeches about sacrifice and duty. But what disturbed the watching aliens was the public reaction. Humans were not despairing or calling for peace. They were angry and determined. Millions were volunteering for military service. Factories were converting to wartime production. The entire planet was mobilizing for a war they knew they would probably lose. They know they cannot win. One ambassador said during an informal council session, the Krevthan will return with twice as many ships. Earth has no reinforcements, no advanced technology, no allies. The logical choice is to negotiate surrender terms while they still have something to bargain with. Why are they preparing to fight? The Velkari Shendra had been studying human psychology and culture. She offered an answer that made the assembled aliens uncomfortable. Because humans have a concept they call, better to die on your feet than live on your knees. They would rather be destroyed fighting than survive as subjects of the Krevthan. This is not logical by our standards, but it is consistent with their entire history and cultural framework. Then they are fools, someone said. Perhaps, Shendra replied. Or perhaps they understand something we have forgotten. That sometimes the threat of irrational response is more powerful than any rational strategy. The Krefton Dominion was having similar discussions. Fleet Commander Caxathor had returned to his home world and made his report to the Dominion Council. He described the battle honestly, including his decision to retreat despite having numerical superiority. The reaction was not what he expected. Half the council demanded he be stripped of rank for cowardice. How could he retreat from primitives with chemical rockets and no energy shields? The Dominion's reputation was at stake. They had claimed the Sol system. If they withdrew now, other species would see them as weak. But the other half of the council had watched the battle recordings and reached different conclusions. They saw the human ship ramming attacks, the suicide runs, the absolute refusal to surrender. They calculated the cost of victory and did not like the numbers. "We can send a larger fleet," one counselor said. 500 ships, 1,000 if needed. We will crush them through sheer numbers. And lose 200 ships? 300? Another counselor replied. For what? A system with no strategic value? Colonies we will have to occupy with constant resistance? The humans have shown they will fight to extinction. Is this territory worth that cost? The debate raged for days. Some wanted to make an example of Earth, to show the galaxy that the Krefton could not be defied. Others wanted to quietly withdraw and pretend the incident never happened. A few suggested negotiating a settlement, giving the humans some face-saving compromise that would end the conflict. While the Krefton argued among themselves, Earth prepared. Every shipyard in the solar system was working at maximum capacity. Engineers were designing new weapons based on what they learned from the battle. Pilots trained in simulators, practicing ramming runs and close-quarters combat. Civilians built shelters and stockpiled supplies for the bombardment everyone knew was coming. Ambassador Chen watched the preparations from Earth and felt a mixture of pride and sorrow. Humanity was showing the galaxy what it was made of, but the price would be terrible. She had been recalled from the council station, her diplomatic mission a complete failure. Now she could only watch as her species prepared for what might be its final war. But something was changing in the galaxy, something subtle that Chen could not quite see yet. Species that had dismissed humanity were now paying attention. The archivists were sharing their data. The Velkari were running new calculations. Even the Drathnell warriors were discussing human tactics in their training halls. On the council station, in the great chamber where Earth's petition had been rejected, Chancellor Zixathera called a closed session. Only the senior council members attended, along with the archivists and a few species known for their wisdom and strategic thinking. The situation with Earth is becoming complicated, Zixathera said. The Krefton are preparing a second invasion fleet. Our intelligence suggests they will send 600 vessels this time, enough to overwhelm the humans through sheer numbers regardless of tactics or casualties. That is their right under council law, someone said. The Krefton fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system, like a swarm of metal locusts. 600 ships, triple the force that had retreated from Titan. Fleet Commander Caxthor was not leading this time. The Dominion Council had given command to Supreme Commander Ralvex, a hardened warrior with 2 centuries of military experience and no patience for primitive species that refused to know their place. Ralvex surveyed the human system through his tactical displays and smiled with sharp teeth. The humans had been busy in the 2 months since the last battle. New orbital platforms floated around Earth and Mars. The asteroid belt had been mined and converted into defensive positions. The few human ships that remained were positioned strategically throughout the system. They had used their time well, but it would not be enough. Broadcast our terms, Ralvex ordered. Maximum power, all channels. I want every human in this system to hear. The message went out in a dozen languages translated by Krefton computers. Ralvex's face appeared on every screen in the Sol system, from Earth's surface to the smallest mining outpost. Humans of Earth, I am Supreme Commander Ralvex of the Krefton Dominion. You defied us once and paid in blood. Now we have returned with a force you cannot possibly resist. I offer you one chance to surrender. Withdraw all military forces. Abandon your outer colonies. Accept Krefton authority over your system. Do this and you will be allowed to live under our protection. Refuse and we will destroy everything you have built. Your choice is simple, submission or annihilation. You have 1 standard hour to respond. The broadcast ended. Ralvex waited, confident that fear and reason would bring the humans to their senses. 600 ships against perhaps 30 human vessels and a few orbital platforms. The mathematics were undeniable. The response came exactly 59 minutes later. Ambassador Chen Wei appeared on the channel, broadcasting from Earth's surface. She stood in front of a monument to the fallen from the Battle of Titan, hundreds of names carved in black stone behind her. Her face was calm, almost peaceful. Supreme Commander Ralvek's humanity has heard your terms. We reject them completely and forever. You come to our home and demand we surrender what is ours. You threaten to destroy us if we refuse. So be it, we will not bow. We will not submit. We will not give you 1 meter of space without making you bleed for it. Chen paused, and when she spoke again, her voice carried across the void to every ship in the Krevthan fleet. You think your numbers give you victory? You think we will break because we are weak? You are wrong on both counts. Yes, you will probably destroy us, but we will hurt you badly before we fall. We will make you pay a price so high that your dominion will remember Earth forever. Come and take what you want, Commander. Cross the line we have drawn. But know this. You will wade through blood and wreckage to get it, and when you are done, you will have nightmares about what we made you do. The transmission ended. Ralvek stared at the empty screen in disbelief. They were going to fight. 600 ships, and they were still going to fight. They are insane, his second-in-command whispered. Then we will grant them the death they seek, Ralvex growled. All ships, advance formation. We will crush them quickly and move on to occupying their worlds. Let us finish this. The Krevthan fleet moved forward in perfect formation, a wall of ships advancing on multiple fronts. The humans waited, apparently frozen in place. Ralvex expected them to scatter like last time, to use their chaotic tactics to try to maximize casualties. Instead, they held position around their orbital platforms and waited. The first surprise came when the Krevthan fleet reached the orbit of Neptune. The humans had mined the entire region with what looked like simple explosive devices. Thousands of them, hidden among the ice and debris. The mines were primitive, crude chemical explosives that would not hurt a Krevthan ship's shields. But they were not meant to hurt ships. The mines detonated in a carefully calculated sequence, vaporizing ice and rock and creating a cloud of debris that spread across millions of kilometers. The debris was not dangerous by itself, but it was dense enough to interfere with sensors and targeting systems. More importantly, it masked what the humans had hidden behind it. Magnetic accelerators, dozens of them, built into captured asteroids and powered by portable fusion reactors. The humans called them railguns. They were ancient technology, simple physics applied with brutal efficiency. The accelerators fired solid projectiles at significant fractions of light speed, straight into the Krevthan formation. Shields designed to stop energy weapons struggled with kinetic impactors. The projectiles were just chunks of metal, nothing sophisticated about them. But at those velocities, a metal slug became a devastating weapon. 3 Krevthan ships took direct hits and were crippled. 5 more took glancing blows that damaged their systems. Return fire, Ralvex ordered. Destroy those platforms. The Krevthan fleet unleashed a devastating barrage, and the human railgun platforms disappeared in balls of fire. But they had already done their job, creating chaos and doubt. The perfect formation began to loosen as captains became nervous about what other surprises the humans had prepared. The second surprise came near Jupiter. Human ships that had been waiting there suddenly activated and began broadcasting false sensor signatures. To Krevthan instruments, it looked like the human fleet had suddenly tripled in size. Ralvex knew most of them had to be decoys, but his ships had to treat every target as potentially real. Missiles and energy beams lanced out, hitting empty space or destroying cheap drones while the actual human ships maneuvered for position. Then the real ships struck. They came from unexpected angles, using Jupiter's gravity well for cover and acceleration. Their targets were not the Krevthan warships, but the support vessels, the ammunition carriers, the fuel tankers, the repair ships that kept the fleet operating. Without support, even the mightiest warship became vulnerable. A human frigate, damaged and leaking atmosphere, slammed into a Krevthan fuel carrier at full speed. The explosion was spectacular, taking out 3 nearby ships and damaging a dozen more. Another human ship hacked into a Krevthan ammunition ship's systems, using some improvised virus, and detonated its entire payload. The blast created a temporary dead zone where nothing electronic could function. They are targeting our logistics, Ralvex shouted in frustration. Protect the support vessels. But protecting the support ships meant diverting warships from the main advance, which was exactly what the humans wanted. The Krefton formation spread out, became less concentrated, easier to harass and attack. The battle moved toward Mars. Human defenders there had converted the planet's 2 moons into fortress positions. Phobos and Deimos bristled with weapons, most of them crude but effective. The Krefton fleet concentrated fire and reduced both moons to rubble. But the cost was time and ammunition. Every delay, every resource expended was a small victory for humanity. The humans played a different kind of warfare, one the Krefton had never experienced. They sent false surrender signals, luring ships close before detonating hidden explosives. They broadcast fake distress calls that drew rescue vessels into ambushes. They used every dirty trick, every deception, every tactic that civilized species had abandoned millennia ago, and they kept fighting. Ships that should have been destroyed kept moving, kept shooting, kept causing problems. Human engineering crews performed miracles, keeping vessels operational with duct tape and welding torches and sheer determination. When weapons ran out, they improvised. When armor failed, they kept flying anyway. The Krefton fleet reached Earth orbit. Ralvix had lost 40 ships and had twice that number damaged. The humans had maybe 10 ships left, all heavily damaged. By any reasonable measure, the battle was over. But the humans were not reasonable. The orbital platforms around Earth opened fire with everything they had left. Ancient nuclear missiles, modern railguns, lasers that could barely scratch Krefton armor. Nothing that could stop the fleet, but everything that could slow it down and make them pay. One of the platforms, a converted space station designated Hope Station, was commanded by a captain named James Kowalski. When his weapons ran out and his systems failed, Kowalski did what humans had been doing throughout the battle. He aimed his station at the largest enemy ship he could see and fired every thruster. The Krefton flagship, Ralvex's own vessel, tried to evade. But Hope Station was massive, and Kowalski had timed his trajectory perfectly. The station hit the flagship's shields at hundreds of meters per second. The shields held for 3 seconds before collapsing. Hope Station's reactors, deliberately overloaded by Kowalski in the final moments, detonated on contact. The explosion was visible from Earth's surface. The flagship died instantly, taking Supreme Commander Ralvex and his entire command staff with it. The blast wave crippled 6 nearby ships and damaged dozens more. In that moment, something changed in the Krefton fleet. Their Supreme Commander was dead. Their formation was in chaos. They had lost almost 100 ships and countless support vessels. And the humans were still fighting, still dying, still refusing to quit. The second in command, a commander named Thexril, took over what remained of the fleet. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened less than 12 hours after the Krefton fleet retreated from Earth. Species that had barely noticed humanity before now filled the chamber, their representatives talking in hushed, urgent tones. The recordings of the battle had spread across the galaxy, and everyone wanted to discuss what they meant. Chancellor Zixthara called the session to order with difficulty. The chamber was more crowded than usual, with minor species that rarely attended pushing their way in to observe. The Council will come to order. We are here to discuss the situation regarding Earth and the Krefton Dominion. There is nothing to discuss, the Krefton ambassador said, rising from his platform. His scales were dark with anger and shame. This matter is a bilateral dispute between the Dominion and a primitive species. The Council has no authority to interfere. You are right that we have no authority, a new voice said. It was Shendra, the Velkari strategist. But we have an obligation to understand what happened. The humans defeated a force 6 times their size. They did so using tactics that violate every principle of rational warfare. This is unprecedented in galactic history. They did not defeat us, the Krefton ambassador protested. We chose to withdraw rather than waste more resources on worthless territory. This was a strategic decision, not a defeat. You lost your supreme commander and nearly 100 ships, Commander Thexelar said bluntly. The Drathanal warrior's voice carried across the chamber. You retreated from a species you outnumbered 20 to 1. Call it whatever you want, but everyone here knows the truth. The humans made you leave. The Krefton ambassador started to respond, but Chancellor Zixthara cut him off. This debate serves no purpose. What we need to understand is not who won or lost, but what the humans demonstrated. Archivist Vinshal, you have been studying these beings. Share your conclusions. The ancient archivist moved forward from the shadows, his paper-thin form seeming to glow in the chamber's light. The humans have shown us something we have forgotten. Most species that reach the stars have evolved past their capacity for extreme violence. We have learned to value life, to calculate costs, to fight wars with limited objectives and acceptable losses. These are good things. They have brought peace to the galaxy for thousands of years. Vinchell paused, letting his words sink in. But the humans are different. They remember what it means to fight for survival. They have not forgotten how to be desperate, how to be ruthless, how to embrace destruction if that is what victory requires. In their short history, they have faced extinction dozens of times and somehow survived. They have developed a culture that celebrates sacrifice, honors those who die for others, and believes some things are worth any price. That sounds like barbarism, someone muttered from one of the platforms. Perhaps it is, Vinchell agreed, but it is also effective. The Krevthan fought a rational war. They calculated acceptable losses and strategic objectives. When the cost exceeded the value, they withdrew. The humans fought an irrational war. They did not care about cost. They cared only about making the enemy pay more than the territory was worth. In that kind of conflict, rationality becomes a weakness. The chamber fell silent as species absorbed this uncomfortable truth. War in the galactic era was supposed to be civilized, fought with rules and limits. The humans had thrown those rules away and won because of it. "This is dangerous," a voice said from the upper platforms. It was one of the elder species, beings who had been part of the council since its founding. If other species see that human tactics work, they may adopt them. We could see a return to the barbaric wars of ancient times. Or, Chandra suggested quietly, other species will avoid conflict with humans entirely. Why start a war you cannot win without unacceptable losses? The humans have created a defensive strategy more powerful than any weapon. They have made themselves too expensive to attack. Chancellor Zixathara considered this. The Zormathi had led the council for 3,000 years by being cautious and thoughtful. They did not make hasty decisions. But sometimes events forced decisions that could not wait. The council rejected Earth's petition for membership, Zixathara said slowly. We told them they were too primitive, too weak, too irrelevant to join our assembly. We were wrong. A murmur ran through the chamber. Council decisions were rarely reversed so quickly. The humans have proven they possess something more valuable than advanced technology or large fleets, Zixathara continued. They have will. They have determination. They have the capacity to do what is necessary, even when it is terrible. These are qualities the council needs, not weaknesses we should mock. You are suggesting we invite them to join, the Krevthan ambassador said in disbelief. After they killed thousands of our people? I am suggesting we recognize reality, Zixathara replied. The humans are not going away. They are not going to become easier to deal with if we ignore them. They have earned respect through blood and fire. The question is whether we are wise enough to acknowledge that before more blood is spilled. Commander Thexlar stood from his platform, his massive form dominating the chamber. The Drathnel have fought in 100 wars. We pride ourselves on our warrior culture. But I watched the recordings of the human battles and I felt something I have not felt in centuries. Fear. Not fear of losing, but fear of winning. Fear of what it would cost to break these creatures completely. That is power more absolute than any weapon. He turned to face the assembled council. I support immediate membership for Earth. Not because they are strong in the way we measure strength, but because they have shown strength of spirit. They are a species that will never give up, never surrender, never accept defeat. The galaxy needs allies like that, not enemies. Other voices joined in, species that had watched the battle and reached similar conclusions. The debate continued for hours, but the outcome was becoming clear. The council had made a mistake when it rejected Earth. Now it needed to correct that mistake before things got worse. Finally, Chancellor Zixathara called for a vote. All those in favor of granting full council membership to Earth, with all rights and protections that membership entails? The chamber lit up with affirmative votes. Not unanimous, but overwhelming. Even some of the Krevthan delegation voted in favor, recognizing that peace with humans was better than continued conflict. The motion passes, Zixathara announced. Earth is hereby granted full membership in the Galactic Council. Ambassador Chen Wei, please return to the council station to accept membership on behalf of your species. Ambassador Chen received the message in the same bunker where she had watched the Krevthan retreat. She read it twice to make sure she understood correctly. Membership, full membership, everything they had asked for months ago, being offered now after thousands of deaths and incredible destruction. She felt no joy, only exhaustion and grief. They had won, but the price had been so high. Still, this was what they had fought for. This was why so many had died. To prove that humanity deserved a place among the stars, Chen traveled back to the Council Station 2 weeks later. The journey gave Earth time to repair the most critical damage and begin counting the full cost of their victory. The casualty lists were still growing as rescue teams found bodies in wrecked ships and destroyed stations. When Chen entered the council chamber this time, the atmosphere was completely different. The alien stood as she approached, a sign of respect she had not received before. There was no laughter, no mockery. Many of the species watched her with expressions that might have been fear or admiration or both. Chancellor Zixthara addressed her formally. Ambassador Chen Wei of Earth, the Galactic Council extends its apology for its previous decision. We failed to see your people's true strength. We mistook primitive technology for primitive spirit. We were wrong, and many have died because of our error. On behalf of the Council, I offer our deepest regrets. Chen was surprised. Apologies were rare in galactic politics. Thank you, Chancellor. Earth accepts the Council's apology and its offer of membership. There is one matter we must address, Zixthara continued. The tactics your species employed in the recent battles were extreme. The Council needs assurance that humans will follow established rules of warfare when operating under Council authority. Chen understood what was really being asked. The Council wanted to know if humans would continue fighting like desperate survivors once they had allies and protection. It was a fair question. Chancellor, let me be clear about something, Chen said. Humans do not want to fight the way we fought these past months. Ramming attacks, suicide runs, total war with no limits. These are tactics of desperation. We used them because we had no choice, because we were alone and facing extinction. Give us allies, give us fair treatment, give us a place in the galactic community. We will be the best partners you could ask for. We will follow rules, honor treaties, and work for peace. She paused, and her voice became harder. But if anyone tries to push us to the edge again, if anyone threatens to destroy us, we will remember how to fight. We will do whatever is necessary to survive. That is not a threat, Chancellor. That is a promise. Humans do not want war, but we are very, very good at it when we have no other choice.